Mom, can I please get the new video game after we finish shopping? Maybe, baby. Let's see how much we have left after the shoes. I never thought a Saturday afternoon at Northbrook Court would be the day my past caught up with me in front of luxury windows and indifferent strangers. Veronica had promised herself 6 months ago that she was done hiding, done looking over her shoulder every time she left the apartment, done letting Paul control her life even after she'd finally walked away. Her daughter Maya had been asking all week to go shopping together, just the two of them, like they used to before everything fell apart, before the screaming matches, before the bruises she'd learned to cover with long sleeves and careful makeup. Maya was 13 now, old enough to understand why they'd left, but young enough to still want normal things, normal mother-daughter days. She walked beside Veronica now, scrolling through her phone, talking about a friend's birthday party next weekend. "Mom, are you even listening?" "Yes, baby, I'm listening." But she wasn't. Not really. Because she'd just seen him. Paul was standing near the Gucci storefront, arms crossed, watching her with that expression. The one that said he'd been waiting. The one that said she'd made a mistake thinking she could ever really be free. "Mom?" Maya's voice shifted, uncertainty creeping in. Veronica grabbed her daughter's hand. "Keep walking." "But that's—" "I know, just keep walking." They tried to move toward the exit, but Paul was already cutting through the crowd. People were shopping, laughing, carrying their designer bags and their lattes, while completely unaware that someone's world was about to shatter right in front of them. Nobody ever notices until it's too late. "Veronica." His voice cut through the ambient music and chatter like a knife. "Don't you dare walk away from me." She kept moving, pulling Maya closer, but he closed the distance in seconds. His hand clamped around her upper arm, jerking her backwards so hard she stumbled against a display window. "Paul, not here. Please, we have the custody hearing next week. You think you can just take everything from me? My house, my reputation, my daughter?" The smell of whiskey hung on his breath, even in the middle of the afternoon. "You did that to yourself." The slap came before she could finish the sentence. The sound cracked through the entire corridor like a gunshot. Veronica's head snapped to the side, on her cheek exploding in white-hot pain. She tasted copper. Her vision blurred at the edges. The shopping bags fell from her hands, scattering across the polished marble floor. People stopped walking. Conversations died mid-sentence. Phones came out, but nobody moved to help. They never do. "Mom!" Maya's scream pierced through the ringing in Veronica's ears. Her daughter grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away, but Paul's grip was iron. "You're nothing without me," he hissed, his face inches from hers. "You hear me? Nothing. And when I'm done with you in court, you'll lose her too." Veronica couldn't speak. Her cheek throbbed. Maya was crying now, tugging at her arm, begging them to stop, but Paul didn't even look at her. He never looked at the damage he caused. He only cared about the power. Then she saw him. About 20 feet away, near the fountain, a tall Korean man in an immaculately tailored black suit, the collar open to reveal intricate black tattoos that crawled up his neck like dragon's breath. He stood perfectly still, watching the scene unfold with an expression of cold calculation. His dark eyes weren't shocked or horrified like everyone else's. They were measuring, assessing. If you're watching this right now, wherever you are in the world, hit that like button and drop your location in the comments, because what happened next changed everything. And I need you to see how fast a predator moves when he's decided someone has crossed a line. The man reached up slowly and began removing his rings. One by one, each movement deliberate and unhurried, like a surgeon preparing for an operation. The silver glinted under the mall's lighting as he slipped them into his jacket pocket. His knuckles, now bare, flexed once. Maya saw him too. Her crying quieted to a whimper. "Mom," she whispered. "That man?" Paul was still ranting. still squeezing Veronica's arm hard enough to leave marks, completely oblivious to the danger approaching from behind. Then the man moved. He closed the distance in 3 strides, silent as smoke. One moment he was by the fountain. The next, his hand was locked around Paul's wrist with such force that Paul's entire body went rigid. "Let her go." The voice was quiet, terrifyingly quiet, but it carried weight, authority, the kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to make you obey. Paul spun around, confused and furious. "Who the hell—" He didn't finish, and the man twisted Paul's wrist in some precise way that made him gasp and immediately release Veronica. She stumbled backward and Maya caught her, wrapping both arms around her mother's waist. Paul tried to swing with his free hand. Amateur, drunk, stupid. The tattooed man stepped inside the punch with practiced ease and delivered one devastating blow directly to Paul's jaw. The sound echoed through the corridor like a thunderclap. Paul dropped, just collapsed onto the marble floor like a puppet with cut strings, groaning and clutching his face. "Mr. Yong?" Another man appeared from somewhere in the crowd, tall, muscular, also wearing an expensive black suit. He didn't say anything else, just stood there flanking the first man, and suddenly the entire atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavier, dangerous. Then the tattooed man, Yong, stood over Paul with the kind of disgust you'd reserve for something you'd scraped off your shoe. "Call security and the police. Make sure they know about the restraining order he violated." Then he turned to Veronica, and his expression softened fractionally. "Are you hurt?" She couldn't find words, just nodded, still holding Maya against her side. He crouched down to Maya's eye level, his voice gentle now. "You were very brave. Your mother is lucky to have you." Maya peeked at him, her eyes red from crying, and nodded silently. Mall security arrived, then police. Paul was hauled to his feet, still dazed, and arrested on the spot. Yong gave his statement with the calm precision of someone who'd done this before, many times before. Veronica's hands shook so badly she could barely sign the police report. Afterward, he walked them to the parking garage. His associate stayed several paces behind, scanning the shadows like he expected trouble. "Thank you," Veronica finally managed. "I don't know what would have happened if—" "You don't need to thank me," he interrupted, his dark eyes holding hers. "But you do need to understand something. Men like him don't stop just because they're arrested." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a simple black business card. Just a name, Yong Joon, and a phone number. No title, no company name. "If he comes near you again, or if anyone connected to him does, you call that number, day or night." Veronica stared at the card. The weight of it felt like so much more than paper. In the car, Maya crawled across the console and wrapped her arms around her mother. "Is he going to come back?" "No." "Ah, baby." Veronica stroked her daughter's hair, holding her tight. "Not anymore." She looked down at the card still clutched in her hand and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. She had no idea that the man who'd saved her life was someone far more dangerous than Paul could ever dream of being. Someone whose protection came with a price she didn't yet understand, but she would learn. Soon enough. Veronica sat in her car for 20 minutes before she could even start the engine. Maya had finally stopped shaking, her head resting against her mother's shoulder, and the silence between them felt both fragile and necessary. The business card lay on the dashboard, black against the gray plastic, somehow managing to look expensive even in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the parking garage. "Mom, who was that man?" "I don't know." "Oh, baby." He was scary. Veronica thought about the way Yong Joon had moved, the coldness in his eyes when he'd looked at Paul, the controlled violence in that single punch. Yeah, he was. But he helped us? Yeah, he did. Maya pulled back slightly, studying her mother's face. "Your cheek is swelling." Veronica touched her face gingerly. The skin was hot and tender, and she could already feel it puffing up. By tomorrow, it would be purple. She'd have to call work, explain why she couldn't come in, avoid the questions she could see forming in her manager's eyes. "I'm okay," she lied. They drove home in silence, and when they pulled into their apartment complex, Veronica found herself checking every shadow, every parked car, every dark corner. Paul was in custody, she knew that. She'd watched them put him in the back of the squad car. But knowing and feeling safe were two different things. Her older sister Jade was already at the apartment when they walked in. She must have gotten Veronica's emergency text because she had tea brewing and Maya's favorite comfort food, mac and cheese, already in the oven. "Jesus, Ronnie!" Jade pulled her into a hug the moment she saw her face. "Are you okay? Is Maya okay?" "We're fine. Someone helped." "Someone?" Jade pulled back, her eyes narrowing with that protective older sister intensity that had gotten her into more than one fight when they were younger. "Who?" Veronica pulled out the business card and handed it over. Jade stared at it for a long moment, then pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. So when Veronica watched her sister's expression change from confusion to concern to something that looked a lot like fear. "Ronnie, do you know who this is?" "Should I?" Jade turned her phone around. The search results showed a series of articles and photos. Yong Joon at charity galas. Yong Joon cutting ribbons at grand openings of luxury hotels. Yong Joon in the background of photos with politicians and business moguls. And then, buried deeper in the search results, forum posts and Reddit threads speculating about his real business. Money laundering. Organized crime. Connections to powerful people who made problems disappear. "He's connected," Jade said carefully. "Like, seriously connected. People don't just have that kind of presence unless they're running something big and dangerous. He saved my life." "I know." "Oh, I'm just saying." "I know what you're saying." Veronica took her phone back, staring at one of the photos. Yong Joon in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his tattoos barely visible above his collar, his expression unreadable as he shook hands with someone important. "I'm not stupid, Jade. I saw how his guy just appeared out of nowhere. I saw how the police treated him, like they knew exactly who he was." "So what are you going to do?" "Nothing. Paul's in jail. That's it. End of story." But it wasn't the end. Not even close. The next morning, Veronica woke to Maya screaming. She bolted out of bed, her heart hammering, and ran to her daughter's room. Maya was standing at the window, pointing down at the street below. "There's a man down there," Maya whispered, "just standing there, watching our building." Veronica looked down. Sure enough, a man in a dark suit stood on the corner across the street. He wasn't trying to hide. He was just there, hands in his pockets, perfectly still. Her first thought was Paul's friends, somebody who'd heard what happened and decided to intimidate her. She grabbed her phone, her thumb hovering over 911. Then the man looked up directly at their window and gave a small, deliberate nod. That's when she noticed the second man. He was leaning against a car parked down the block, also in a suit, also watching. As she scanned the street, she spotted a third near the coffee shop on the corner. They weren't Paul's friends. They were Yong Joon's. Veronica's hands were shaking as she pulled out the business card and dialed the number. It rang once. "Ms. Veronica." His voice was smooth, unhurried, like he'd been expecting her call. "There are men outside my apartment." "I know, they're for your protection." "I didn't ask for protection." "No, you didn't." There was a pause, and she could hear the faint clink of porcelain in the background, like he was having morning tea. But Paul was released on bail 2 hours ago. Her blood turned to ice. What? His family posted bond. He walked out of Cook County at 6:47 this morning. My people have been watching him since. He made 3 phone calls the moment he was released. 2 to lawyers, 1 to his mother. I thought you should have eyes on your building until we see what his next move is. Veronica sank onto Maya's bed. Her daughter was watching her with wide, frightened eyes. How long are they going to be there? As long as necessary. I can't afford— You're not paying for this, Yong Joon interrupted. Well, consider it a courtesy. Nothing is free. No, he agreed. It isn't. But we can discuss the terms later. Right now, I need you to do exactly as I say. Don't go to work today. Don't leave your apartment. My men will alert me if Paul comes anywhere near your building, and if he does, I'll handle it. Handle it how? The pause stretched long enough that Veronica's imagination filled in the blanks. When he finally spoke, his voice was colder. However necessary. He hung up before she could respond. Veronica called in sick to work. She told her manager she had the flu, hating the lie but hating the truth more. She spent the day with Maya, trying to act normal, trying to pretend that 3 armed men weren't standing guard outside their building like sentries. Around noon, Jade came over with groceries and the kind of worried expression that made Veronica want to both hug her and tell her to leave. "Are those his guys?" Jade asked, nodding toward the window. "Yeah, Jesus, Ronnie, this is getting serious. Paul's out on bail. What was I supposed to do?" Jade didn't have an answer for that. She just unpacked the groceries and made lunch while Veronica sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone and wondering what kind of debt she was accumulating with every hour Yong Joon's men stood outside. That evening around 7, one of the suited men knocked on her door. Veronica checked the peephole, her hand hovering over the pepper spray she'd started keeping by the door. The man held up a brown paper bag and a phone. She opened the door a crack, the chain still engaged. "Ms. Veronica," the man said politely. Mr. Yong sent dinner, and he'd like to speak with you." He held up the phone through the gap in the door. Veronica stared at it for a long moment before taking it and closing the door again. She unhooked the chain and opened it properly, accepting the bag of food. Inside was Thai food from a restaurant she'd mentioned once, months ago, in a casual conversation with a coworker. There was no way Yong Joon should know that. No way he should know her favorite dish. Unless he'd been watching her for longer than just yesterday. She pressed the phone to her ear. "Hello? Did you eat lunch?" Yong Joon asked. "That's none of your business." "I'll take that as a no. The food is for you and your daughter. There's also dessert. Mango sticky rice. Maya mentioned she likes mango when the police were taking your statement yesterday." He'd been listening, paying attention to details most people would have missed in the chaos. "Why are you doing this?" Veronica asked quietly. "Because I can, and because Paul made a very stupid mistake yesterday." "Which was?" "He put his hands on you in public, in front of witnesses, in front of my witnesses." There was something dark in his voice now, something that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "I don't tolerate bullies, Ms. Veronica, especially ones who think they can hurt women and walk away unpunished." "The police arrested him. He'll go to trial." "The police will do what they can within the law," Yong Joon interrupted. "I work in a different jurisdiction. I don't want anyone hurt because of me." "Then you should have thought about that before you walked into that mall. Because the moment Paul put his hands on you, he walked into my world. And in my world, there are consequences." The line went dead. Veronica stood there holding the phone, her heart racing. She should be scared. She was scared. But underneath the fear was something else, something that felt uncomfortably like relief. For the first time in 6 months, she wasn't dealing with Paul alone. The next day, Tuesday, Veronica forced herself to go to work. The bruise on her face had darkened to a deep purple, and no amount of concealer could hide it completely. Her co-workers stared. Some asked questions. She told them she'd walked into a door and watched their eyes fill with concern and disbelief. During her lunch break, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Veronica Harris?" A woman's voice, sharp and accusatory. "Who is this?" This is Patricia Wright, Paul's mother. I think we need to have a conversation. Veronica's stomach dropped. I have nothing to say to you. Well, I have plenty to say to you. You've ruined my son's life. He's facing criminal charges because of you, because of your lies. I didn't lie. He hit me. There were dozens of witnesses. He was upset. You provoked him. You've been keeping his daughter from him, poisoning Maya against him. He has supervised visitation for a reason, Mrs. Wright. The judge doesn't know my son like I do. He would never hurt you or Maya, but you're vindictive. You're using the system to destroy him. Patricia's voice rose, shrill and angry. But you made a mistake going after my family. My husband has connections, lawyers. We're going to make sure you lose custody of Maya. We're going to prove you're an unfit mother. Veronica's hands were shaking. Don't threaten me. It's not a threat, it's a promise. By the time we're done with you, you'll have nothing, and Maya will finally be back where she belongs, with people who actually care about her. The line went dead. Veronica sat in her car, her breath coming in short gasps. She wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to drive to Paul's mother's house and show her what real anger looked like. Instead, she called Yong Joon. He answered on the first ring. What happened? How did you know? Your voice. Tell me. She told him about the call, about Patricia's threats, about the lawyers and the custody battle and how powerless she felt. When she finished, there was a long silence. Where are you? Yong Joon finally asked. In my car. Outside my office. Stay there. I'm sending someone to sit with you. I don't need... Yes, you do. His voice was firm. And Veronica? Mrs. Wright won't be calling you again. What are you going to do? What needs to be done? He hung up. 20 minutes later, one of Yong Joon's men appeared. He didn't come to her car, just positioned himself near the entrance to her building, visible and imposing. Veronica went back inside, feeling both protected and trapped. That evening, as she was leaving work, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. Patricia Wright sitting in her living room, now a cup of tea frozen halfway to her mouth, staring at two men in expensive suits who sat across from her. The men's faces weren't visible, but Veronica knew who they worked for. Below the photo was a message. Problem solved. She won't contact you again. YJ. Veronica stared at the photo for a long time. She should be horrified, should be scared of what kind of man could send people into someone's home like this, should be worried about what threats were made, what pressure was applied. Instead, all she felt was a fierce, burning satisfaction. When she got home, there was another note under her door. Expensive cardstock, handwritten in precise, elegant script. Dinner tomorrow night, 7 p.m., I'll send a car. Bring Maya. We need to talk about your future. Yong Joon. Not an invitation, an instruction. Veronica held the note, horning her thumb running over the embossed name at the top. She should say no, should cut ties now before she got any deeper into whatever this was. Should take Maya and maybe even leave the city, start over somewhere Paul and his family and Yong Joon couldn't find them. But she didn't want to run anymore. She wanted to see what happened when someone finally fought back on her behalf. She texted the number Yong Joon had called from earlier. We'll be ready. His response came immediately. Good. That night, Veronica lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Through her window, she could see the faint silhouette of one of Yong Joon's men standing watch. She should feel like a prisoner, should feel monitored and controlled. Instead, for the first time since leaving Paul, she felt like someone actually gave a damn whether she lived or died. Maya appeared in her doorway, backlit by the hallway light. Can't sleep, Veronica asked. I had a bad dream. Come here, baby. Maya climbed into bed beside her, curling into her mother's side like she used to when she was little. Mom, are we in trouble? What do you mean? That man, Mr. Yong. He's helping us. but Aunt Jade seems scared of him. Veronica pulled her daughter closer. Mr. Yong is complicated, but he's making sure Dad can't hurt us anymore. Is he a bad man? I think he's a dangerous man, but I don't think he's bad. What's the difference? Veronica thought about the way Yong Joon had looked at Paul, the calculated violence in his movements, the cold authority in his voice. Then she thought about his men standing guard outside their building, the way he'd made sure Maya got her favorite dessert, or the way he'd neutralized Patricia's threats with surgical precision. Bad men hurt people because they want to. Dangerous men hurt people because they have to. And sometimes, baby, dangerous is exactly what we need. Maya was quiet for a long moment. He has scary eyes, but when he looked at me, they weren't scary anymore. They were sad. Veronica remembered that, too. The way Yong Joon's expression had softened when he'd crouched down to Maya's level, the genuine gentleness in his voice. Whatever demons drove him, they weren't directed at children. "Get some sleep," Veronica whispered. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting." Wednesday came too fast. Veronica spent the day in a fog of anxiety and anticipation. She picked out clothes 3 times, too casual, too formal, too desperate. Finally settled on a simple black dress that Maya helped her choose. Professional, but not trying too hard. "You look pretty, Mom," Maya said. "Thanks, baby. You look beautiful." Maya had chosen her favorite outfit, a purple dress with a cardigan that had small flowers embroidered on the pockets. She looked more relaxed than Veronica felt, less intimidated by the idea of having dinner with a man who could make problems disappear with a phone call. At exactly 6:55 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up outside their building. The driver got out, opened the rear door, and waited. Veronica took Maya's hand, grabbed her purse, and walked downstairs. The driver nodded politely as they approached. "Ms. Veronica, Miss Maya, Mr. Yong is looking forward to seeing you both." The interior of the car was immaculate, leather seats that smelled expensive, and a privacy screen between them and the driver, a small cooler with bottled water and juice boxes. Maya's eyes went wide. "This is fancy." "It is," Veronica agreed, her stomach twisting with nerves. They drove north, leaving the city behind, heading into suburbs that got progressively wealthier. The houses grew larger, the lawns more manicured, the gates more imposing. Finally, they turned onto a private road that wound through trees before opening up to reveal an estate that made Veronica's breath catch. The house was modern and sprawling, all glass and stone and sharp angles. Lights glowed warmly from inside, and the landscaping was so perfect it looked like something from a magazine. As they pulled up to the front entrance, the door opened and Yong Joon stepped out. He'd traded his suit for something slightly less formal, black slacks and a black button-down with the sleeves rolled up to reveal the full extent of his tattoos. In the golden light spilling from the house, the ink seemed to move across his skin like living shadows. "Welcome," he said as the driver opened their door. "I'm glad you came." Maya slipped out of the car first, her eyes darting around nervously. Yong Joon smiled at her, a genuine smile that transformed his face into something almost kind. "Maya, there's a room inside with art supplies. My assistant's daughter left some things here. Would you like to draw while your mother and I talk?" Maya looked at Veronica, who nodded. "It's okay, baby." A woman appeared in the doorway, middle-aged, kind-faced, wearing an apron. "Hello, sweetheart, I'm Mrs. Kim. Want to help me make dessert?" Maya's face lit up, and she followed Mrs. Kim inside without hesitation, leaving Veronica alone with Yong Joon. "She's resilient," he observed. "She's had to be." Yong Joon gestured toward the house. "Shall we?" Inside was just as impressive as outside. Minimalist furniture, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a garden lit with subtle landscape lighting. It was beautiful and cold, and exactly what Veronica would have expected from a man like him. He led her to a dining room where a table was set for 2. Not the full, formal dining table she could see through another doorway. This was smaller, more intimate, positioned near a window with a view of the garden. "Please sit." Veronica sat, her hands folded in her lap, watching as Yong Joon poured wine for her and water for himself. You don't drink?" she asked. "Not often. I prefer to stay sharp." He sat across from her, his dark eyes studying her face. "How's the bruise?" "Healing. Paul's in custody again, as of this morning." Veronica's head snapped up. "What?" "He violated the terms of his bail, attempted to contact you through his mother. The judge revoked bail. He'll stay locked up until trial now." Yong Joon took a sip of water. His mother, as you may have noticed, has become significantly less hostile. "What did your people say to her?" "The truth. That if she continued to harass you, I would personally ensure her family lost everything they've built. Her husband's business, their reputation, their home." He said it calmly, like he was discussing the weather. "She believed me." Veronica's hands were shaking. "Nang, you can't just threaten people like that." "I can. I did. And it worked." He leaned forward slightly. "Veronica, I'm going to be very clear with you. I could have walked past you in that mall, could have let Paul hit you and walked away, but I didn't. And now that I've intervened, I don't do things halfway. Your problem is my problem. Paul's family is smart enough to recognize that. The question is, are you? I don't understand what you want from me. I want you to stop fighting me." His voice was gentle but firm. "I want you to trust that I can protect you and Maya better than the police, better than restraining orders, better than the legal system that keeps letting Paul out on bail. I want you to accept that for the foreseeable future, you are under my protection." "And what do you get out of this?" Yong Joon was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. "The knowledge that I did what I should have done years ago." "I don't understand." "You don't need to. Not yet." He stood, walked to the window, his back to her. "I had a sister once, younger than me. She was beautiful and kind and deserved better than the life our family gave her. She fell in love with a man who seemed perfect, charming, successful. By the time we realized what he really was, it was too late." Veronica's breath caught. What happened to her? "He killed her, made it look like an accident. And because he had money and connections, he walked away. I was 23. Arrogant. I thought I was untouchable. But I wasn't fast enough, wasn't smart enough. Wasn't there when she needed me?" He turned back to face her, and the pain in his eyes was raw and real. "So when I see a man like Paul, who thinks he can hurt women without consequence, I don't walk away. I can't." Veronica stood, walking over to him slowly. "I'm not your sister." "No, you're not. But you're someone's sister, someone's mother, and you deserved better than what Paul gave you." They stood there in silence, the weight of his confession hanging between them. Finally, Veronica spoke. "If I accept your protection, what does that mean? Really? It means you don't face Paul alone. It means you don't face his family alone. It means when you wake up at night afraid, you know that someone is watching, someone is ready." He paused. "It also means you accept that the person protecting you has done things, will do things. Like that might frighten you. Are you trying to scare me off? I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm not a good man, Veronica. I'm a useful one. And right now, you need useful more than you need good." She thought about Patricia's phone call, about Paul's rage, about the years she'd spent being afraid. Then she thought about the satisfaction she'd felt seeing those men in Patricia's living room, knowing someone had finally made the bullies afraid. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay. I accept your protection." Yong Joon's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. "Good. Then let's eat. Mrs. Kim makes the best kalbi you'll ever taste." Dinner was surprisingly normal. They talked about Maya's school, about Veronica's job, about safe, ordinary things that felt surreal given the conversation they'd just had. When they finished, Yong Joon walked her back to the room where Maya was decorating cookies with Mrs. Kim, both of them covered in flour and laughing. "Did you have fun, baby?" Veronica asked. "So much fun. Mrs. Kim taught me how to make flower shapes." On the drive home, Maya chattered about the cookies and the garden and how nice everyone was. Veronica listened with half her attention, the other half replaying Yong Joon's words. "I'm not a good man. I'm a useful one." When they got home, there were new locks on their door, better ones, and a note taped to the frame. "Keys are with building manager. Security system installed. Cameras at all entry points. You're safe now. YJ." Veronica let Maya brush her teeth and get ready for bed, then tucked her in with a kiss. "Mom?" Maya asked sleepily. "Mr. Yong is scary, but I like him." "Me too, baby." "Me too." That night, Veronica slept better than she had in months. And in the morning, when she looked out the window, Yong Joon's men were still there, still watching, still protecting. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what came next. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Veronica went to work, picked up Maya from school, lived her life, but always with the shadow of protection following her. Yong Joon's men were never intrusive, but they were always there. A car parked on her street, a suited figure in the coffee shop across from her office, silent guardians who nodded politely when she noticed them. Paul remained in custody, his trial date set for 2 months out. His mother stopped calling. His lawyer stopped filing motions. It was like someone had pressed pause on the nightmare, giving Veronica room to finally breathe. She and Yong Joon spoke often now. Sometimes he called to check in, his voice low and careful. Other times she called him, when she couldn't sleep, when the fear crept back in, when she just needed to hear someone say that everything would be okay. He never made her feel foolish for calling, never made her feel weak, but she also started noticing things. The way people moved aside when his name was mentioned, the way her landlord suddenly became very accommodating about her lease, the way her car got serviced without her asking, the bill mysteriously paid. Yong Joon was weaving himself into her life, thread by thread, until she couldn't tell where her independence ended and his influence began. It should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like being wrapped in armor. On a Friday evening, Yong Joon called with an invitation that felt different. "I want to show you something," he said. "Tomorrow night. Just you. Maya can stay with Mrs. Kim. She's been asking about her." "Show me what?" "The cost." His voice was serious. "You've accepted my protection, but you don't really understand what that means yet. I think it's time you did." Veronica's stomach tightened. Should I be scared? Yes. But come anyway. The next evening, she dropped Maya at Yong Joon's estate, where Mrs. Kim welcomed her daughter like a beloved grandchild. Then Yong Joon led Veronica to his car. Not the Mercedes, but a sleek black sports car that purred like a predator when he started it. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the suburbs behind and heading into an industrial area she'd never seen before. Warehouses and empty lots gave way to a nondescript building with no signage, just a number on the door. Inside was a different world. The exterior was deliberately forgettable, but past the security checkpoint, the space opened into something that looked like a cross between a nightclub and a fortress. Low lighting, expensive furniture, and men and women in suits moving with purpose. Everyone who saw Yong Joon either nodded respectfully or looked away quickly. "This is one of my operations," he said quietly, guiding her through the space with a hand at the small of her back. "Money moves through here, information, resources, some of it legal, some of it less so." They climbed stairs to a private office with one-way glass overlooking the floor below. Yong Joon poured himself a drink this time, whiskey, neat, and stood at the window. What I told you, I'm not a good man. This is why. I control businesses that operate in gray areas. I have people who answer to me, who do things that would horrify you if you knew the details. I've hurt people who threatened what's mine. I've made people disappear when they became problems. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. This is the world that protects you. These are the hands that keep Paul away. Veronica walked to the window, looking down at the people below. Are you trying to make me leave? I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're accepting. Because once you're truly part of this world, Veronica, there's no going back. People will know you're under my protection. That comes with benefits, but it also comes with danger. My enemies could see you as leverage. Why my allies might try to use you to get closer to me. And you'll have to live with the knowledge that the man who holds your daughter's hand at dinner also has blood on his. She turned to him, studying his face in the dim light. Why me? Really? I know about your sister, but there are other women who need help, other victims. Why am I the one you've chosen to protect? Yong Joon set his glass down and crossed to her. He moved slowly, deliberately, until he was close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the faint scars that marked his knuckles. Because when I saw Paul hit you, I didn't just see another abuser. I saw the man who killed my sister. And when I looked at you, struggling to protect Maya while your whole world collapsed, I saw her, the woman I failed to save. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. You're not her. I know that. But saving you, protecting you, it's the only redemption I'm ever going to get. Veronica reached up, her hand hovering near his face. You can't save me as penance for her. I know, but I'm going to try anyway. She let her hand fall to his chest, feeling his heartbeat through the expensive fabric of his shirt. Show me. Show you what? The scars, the ones you hide under the suits. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. Then slowly, he began unbuttoning his shirt. The tattoos she'd seen on his neck and hands were just the visible portions of something much larger. Dragons and tigers and phoenixes twisted across his chest and shoulders, beautiful and terrifying. But beneath the ink were other marks. Pale lines that spoke of violence survived. A thick scar across his ribs, another near his collarbone. Cigarette burns on his shoulder that made her breath catch. My father's work, Yong Joon said quietly, following her gaze. He believed in teaching lessons through pain. By the time I was old enough to fight back, I'd already learned that survival means being willing to become the monster before the monster becomes you. Veronica traced one of the scars gently. And your sister? She was the only softness in that house, the only person who never looked at me like I was a weapon to be deployed. When she died, I stopped pretending to be anything other than what my father made me. He caught her hand, holding it against his chest, until I saw you. And suddenly, I remembered what it felt like to want to protect something instead of destroy it. They stood like that for a long time, her hand trapped in his heartbeat steady under her palm. Then Veronica pulled back. I'm not asking you to be good, Yong Joon. I'm asking you to keep being useful. Can you do that? His smile was sharp and sad. Yes, I can do that. They returned to the estate near midnight. Maya was asleep in one of the guest rooms, and Mrs. Kim had already gone home. Yong Joon carried Maya to the car without waking her, and Veronica watched the careful way he supported her daughter's head, the gentleness in his movements that contrasted so sharply with everything he'd shown her earlier. Thank you, she said as he buckled Maya into the back seat. For what? For being honest, for not pretending to be something you're not. He closed the car door softly. Get some rest. I'll call you tomorrow. But the call came much sooner than that. At 3:47 a.m., Veronica's phone exploded with notifications, calls, texts, all from Yong Joon's number. She grabbed it, her heart racing. What's wrong? Where's Maya? His voice was sharp, urgent. In her bed, asleep. Check. Now. Veronica stumbled down the hall to Maya's room, fear clawing up her throat. She pushed open the door and her world stopped. The bed was empty. The window was open. And on the pillow was a note in handwriting she recognized. You took everything from me. Now I take her. Paul. The scream that tore from Veronica's throat was inhuman. She dropped the phone, her legs giving out, and collapsed beside Maya's empty bed. Then Yong Joon was there. She didn't know how he'd arrived so fast, didn't remember him coming through the door. But suddenly his hands were on her shoulders, his voice cutting through her panic. Veronica, look at me, look at me. She did. His eyes were cold and focused, the gentleness completely gone. How long ago? I don't know, I was asleep. The window's still warm, less than 30 minutes. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. I have cameras on this building, we'll find her. His voice shifted to Korean, rapid-fire instructions to whoever answered, then back to English. Get dressed, we're going to get her back. How did he get out? You said his lawyer posted an emergency appeal. I was notified, but not fast enough. For the first time, Veronica saw real rage in Yong Joon's expression. That's my failure, and I'm going to correct it. Within minutes, the apartment was full of his people, men checking the security footage, tracking cell signals, pulling up traffic cameras. Yong Joon stood at the center of it all, issuing orders with terrifying efficiency. Boss! One of his men called out. We found the car. They're heading north on Highway 41. How many in the vehicle? 2 adults. 1 child. Looks like Paul and his brother. Yong Joon's jaw tightened. Alert our people at every exit. Close it down. They don't get out of the city. He turned to Veronica. Stay here with... Absolutely not. Veronica's voice was steel. That's my daughter. I'm coming. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fine. But you do exactly as I say. Understood? Understood. They moved with military precision. Yong Joon's car led a convoy of 3 vehicles speeding through empty streets while his people tracked Paul's movements in real time. Veronica sat in the passenger seat, her hands clenched into fists, praying to every god she could think of. Ari, they've stopped, one of his men reported over the radio. Old Industrial Park off Route 53, Building 14. Is it a setup? Yong Joon asked. Unknown, but there's another vehicle there, not registered to the family. Yong Joon's expression darkened. He's not working alone. Someone gave him help. They pulled up to the industrial park with lights off, moving silently through the darkness. Yong Joon's men fanned out, communicating through hand signals, while Veronica stayed close to Yong Joon, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Then she heard it, Maya screaming. She moved before she could think, running toward the sound, but Yong Joon caught her arm. Wait, that's my daughter. I know, and if we go in blind, we all die. Give me 2 minutes. They were the longest 2 minutes of Veronica's life. And then Yong Joon's phone buzzed. He read the message and swore softly in Korean. What is it? There are 6 men inside, professional, armed. This isn't just Paul being stupid. Someone hired them. His eyes met hers. This is a message. Someone's using Paul to get to me. I don't care. Get my daughter out. Yong Joon nodded and signaled his men. They moved like shadows, flowing around the building, and then everything happened at once. The door burst open. Gunfire erupted. Veronica screamed and tried to run forward, but one of Yong Joon's men held her back, shielding her with his body while chaos unfolded. Through the open door, she saw Yong Joon moving with lethal grace, his gun raised, firing with precision. His men flanked him, cutting down the hired mercenaries with professional efficiency. Paul tried to run, dragging Maya with him, but one of Yong Joon's men tackled him to the ground. Then Yong Joon was there, standing over Paul with his gun pointed directly at his head. "Please," Paul begged. "Please, I just wanted my daughter. She was never yours." Yong Joon's voice was ice. "You gave up that right when you put your hands on her mother." Veronica broke free and ran to Maya, who was crying and terrified, but unharmed. She gathered her daughter into her arms, holding her so tight Maya gasped. "Mom, I'm okay, I'm okay." Yong Joon didn't lower his gun. "Give me one reason I shouldn't end this right now." "Because I'm not worth it," Veronica said quietly. She stood, still holding Maya, and walked over to them. "He's not worth it. Put the gun down." "He took your daughter." "And you got her back. The police can handle the rest." For a long, terrible moment, Yong Joon didn't move. Then slowly he lowered the weapon. "Take them outside." His men pulled Paul to his feet and dragged him away. The police arrived moments later, called by Yong Joon before they'd even left her apartment. The story was simple. Paul had violated his bail, kidnapped his daughter, and been apprehended by private security. Clean, legal, airtight. As the squad cars pulled away with Paul in custody, Veronica finally allowed herself to break. She sank to the ground, still holding Maya, and sobbed. Yong Joon crouched beside them, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "It's over," he said softly. "He's going to prison for a very long time." "What about the people who helped him?" "They're being handled. You don't need to worry about them." She looked up at him, seeing the blood spatter on his shirt, the hardness still lingering in his eyes. "Thank you for getting her back. I told you. You're under my protection. That means Maya, too. Always." 2 months later, Paul's trial was brief and decisive. With the kidnapping charges added to the assault, his lawyer advised him to take a plea deal, 20 years minimum. Veronica attended the sentencing with Yong Joon beside her, his presence a silent promise that Paul would never hurt her again. Afterward, Yong Joon took her to his estate, not for dinner this time, but for something else entirely. He led her to the garden, where fairy lights had been strung through the trees, and a small table waited with champagne and dessert. Maya was inside with Mrs. Kim, decorating more cookies and giggling about something. "What's this?" Veronica asked. "A celebration. And a proposal." Yong Joon reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, not an engagement ring, but something else. A band of platinum with small diamonds circling it, beautiful and understated. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said. "Not yet. But I am asking you to accept what this represents. Safety, security, a life where you never have to be afraid again. Where Maya grows up protected, where you have everything you need and want." He paused. "But it comes with the darkness, too, with knowing what I am, what I do, with accepting that the man who loves you is also the man who would burn the world down to keep you safe." Veronica stared at the ring, her heart racing. "And if I say no? Then I let you go. I remove my protection, my influence, my interference. You go back to being just Veronica, free, independent, alone." She thought about the last 3 months, the fear that had finally subsided, the way Maya laughed freely now, unafraid, the way she slept through the night without nightmares, the way Yong Joon looked at her daughter like she was precious and fragile and worth protecting. "You're asking me to choose between freedom and safety." "No." Yong Joon stepped closer, taking her hand. "I'm asking you to choose a different kind of freedom. The freedom to live without fear, to build a life without looking over your shoulder, to let someone else carry the weight for once." Veronica looked back at the house, where she could see Maya's silhouette in the window, safe and happy and whole. Then she looked at Yong Joon, or at the scars and the tattoos and the eyes that had seen terrible things but still managed to be gentle when they looked at her. "Put it on," she said quietly. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "Does this mean you're mine now?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability beneath the question. "No," Veronica said, reaching up to touch his face. "It means we're each other's. You protect me from the world, and I protect you from yourself." Yong Joon smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. "I can live with that." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. And when they pulled apart, Veronica felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The darkness was still there. It always would be. But now she had someone standing with her in it. Someone who would fight every shadow that dared to come close. And that, she thought as she looked at the ring glinting on her finger, was worth everything.